everyone, and welcome to Schrodinger's Bathtub. And I believe I've got echo in the background.
Sorry, that was me. Sorry.
Oh, is that you? Is it? I thought it was me.
There we go.
No, it's me. How did I manage that? No, it was me. No, I had the audio playing in the stream in the background. Sorry, people. Oh. There's always something that goes wrong.
It's not a stream without technical issues.
No, last one we didn't have any.
Before we start, I may have to drop out real quick if Amber calls, because she's going through some stuff, as everybody knows. Yep. So if she calls, I'll drop out, but I'll still be here.
All right, no worries, Ed. We got
100%. That's more important. If you need to, you go.
Hi, everyone in the chat. Welcome. And we should have a bit of fun tonight. With me, as always, is the absolutely brilliant co-host of this show, Matt, almost a doctor. Hi, Matt. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Well, all right, considering that I haven't been able to leave the house for anything in more than a month, and I am pretty much stuck either going for a walk or trying to film something. But I did get some filming done this week, and I have now finished all of the filming for my next video. So now it's just a matter of getting the last few pieces I need for that and putting it together. So hopefully not too long before I can have that as a nice big release.
Awesome.
So yeah,
it'll be
can't
good.
complain.
It's going to be good. It's going to be very good.
I hope so.
And
fingers crossed.
And Buddy Powell, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I was feeling better until I got here, and then Matt tells me I don't swear, I don't drink coffee. The hell kind of shit is that? It's freaking weirdo.
I gotta get the bleep out the first couple of minutes.
You got me doing a show with these freaking nutballs. Don't drink coffee. How can you not drink coffee?
I drink tea.
Yeah, that's what's wrong.
Yo, slacker.
I drink coffee, Ed. It's all right. I drink coffee.
All right.
And hot chocolate and mochas.
I have to bitch at somebody.
I don't percolate coffee, though. I drink instant. Yeah, just to upset you, Ed.
Ed's cup just sums it all up. I know he's already shown it to the camera once, but...
Hey, we got to get you worked up, Ed. We know who we're talking about tonight. The guy at the moment.
Banana eating fart boy.
Banana eating
the
fart
even
boy.
more annoying Matt than the one that you're currently having to deal with.
Yeah, the other Matt.
Although, I did look up some of what we're going to cover tonight, and it took me about 30 seconds to find the real answers. So, that's the level we're dealing with here.
Well, we're dealing with somebody who doesn't want to look things up. The guy who holds up a high school textbook designed for kids at the start of high school and says, I know about science. Do you, Matt?
Yeah.
Do you?
And now you know why I prefer to call him Mutt instead of Matt.
Matt Powell.
Yeah, he doesn't deserve to be a Matt. I'm going to gatekeep on the Matts tonight. You got to do better than that to be a Matt. Although that means that I haven't debated him, but now we've dealt with on this channel and Hereticals 2 Matts that have been fairly low bar in terms of setting standards. So
for Matthews, yeah.
Gonna see how tonight goes.
Yeah, it can't get worse.
Don't underestimate these people, Jen. Or overestimate.
So, for anybody who watched Ed's ranty video the other night, he basically covered the first video that we're going to cover tonight, but from a different take than we're going to do tonight. Matt Powell did a sermon a couple of years back, I think it was, or it wasn't all that long. A year or so ago, about a year.
No, it's less than that.
The
video was
the
up
video's
less than
recent,
a year
but I
ago.
think the sermon was about a year ago,
Okay.
where he basically made the claim that scientists said dinosaurs became extinct because they farted themselves to death. Basically, his claim is that they farted so much that they increased the methane in the atmosphere to levels that are worse than they are today, and of course that raised the temperature of the planet, so they all died. Yeah, he actually said that. And I mean, to be fair, there is actually a science paper on dinosaur farts. However, the paper does not say the dinosaurs farted themselves to death. On top of that, no. The paper doesn't even talk about farts. The paper talks about the expelling of methane, but as we know from cows and camels, most of the methane that is expelled by the bacteria in the stomach that creates the methane actually is burped out. So in fact, you couldn't really say that dinosaurs farted themselves to death. They would have had to have belched themselves to death, which is just a little bit different.
Not quite as spectacular.
Not quite as spectacular or as smelly.
Not like they filled the air with methane and then one of them decided, like Ed, to have a cigarette and just like, hold on a moment, fellas.
I don't even know if we need to play Matt's video. Matt Powell's video.
It took me a minute to find that article and 30 seconds of reading the article. Actually, I read the first line of the summary.
Yeah.
Is basically the abstract. I don't know why they called it a summary on this occasion, but it's the same thing. Yeah, I read like 2 lines of that and realized, no, this is nothing like what he was going to say. But
by the way, hi Brain Bug, you were one of the people Matt Powell attacked when he made his responsibility video. So you're well aware of this.
And if he's not, he's going to be.
He's going to be. No, he's aware.
Yeah.
So yeah, but basically what it was is it was in Liverpool. No, Livermore. Sorry, not Livermore. Why did I go Liverpool? Livermore University. There was and I can't remember the name of the scientist who did the study. The issue we have with dinosaurs and herbivorous dinosaurs, especially sauropods, is that we don't actually know how their stomachs worked. We can make a lot of assumptions. The original assumption was they would probably swallow large stones and use those to help crush up the organic waste, and that would help them be able to process, and they wouldn't need as much gut bacteria to do it. The only problem with that thought is that we haven't actually found a lot of sauropod skeletons which have had stones left in positions where they could have been used for that purpose. So we're only surmising this from other animals that are still alive today that do similar things, and it would work.
Doggo.
Now the other thing is that they behave more like cows and camels, where they have bacteria that can break down the organic matter and release. In the process of doing that, they're going to release a heap of methane. So what this study did was basically calculating on what they thought the average population density of sauropods was and the locations on Earth where they could have been at the time. They calculated that if sauropods did have the same sort of gut bacteria that cows and camels have now, how much methane would they be expelling into the atmosphere? And what they came up with was a figure that was close to what what we do now through agriculture and industry. So very similar.
Minus
amounts.
Cows. I think the paper did actually.
No,
have
it included cows.
For cows, didn't it? Oh,
no,
it did include.
No, it included all of it. Now, be aware that's just what we put in methane in our atmosphere. They weren't putting the CO2 in the atmosphere that we are. So they wouldn't. Dinosaurs themselves would not have increased the greenhouse gas levels in the atmosphere to the same extent as we have between agriculture and industry, because they weren't pushing the CO2 into the atmosphere. But there still would have been a reasonable amount of warming from this had this been the case. But there are other...
And...
Yeah.
Oh,
go, Matt. No, you go, no, because you've got a good
This
answer.
is not to mention
anyway.
This paper, I think, was set some 200 million years ago. The actual extinction of dinosaurs occurred about 65 million years ago. And during that time, particularly towards the end, there was a massive amount of volcanic eruptions in, it's known as I think if I say it correctly, the Deccan Flats in India.
Yes.
Where basically this whole area just erupted of all these volcanoes, which would have spewed a lot of CO2, a lot of methane, a whole bunch of other atmosphere-altering chemicals out. And they know that dinosaur kind of diversity had also declined significantly by the time the asteroid hit, but they don't know whether that meant that the populations were declining or whether it was just a few different types of dinosaurs or like clades of dinosaurs were doing really, really well and of
course there is another option to that as well, Matt, in that fossilization is a very rare occurrence. So we don't know if there was conditions at the time towards the end of the dinosaurs period where there was less fossilization. It could be very likely that there was less fossilization at that period because the Earth had warmed due to volcanic activity and dinosaur belching, to the point where we didn't get as many dinosaurs being preserved through fossilization, which means that our sampling isn't accurate. And that is a problem that we have in paleontology that, because is not it's not a good concatenation there. Because I've derailed myself again. Sorry.
Well, I mean, a good example on that, Jen. Everybody's heard of the Cambrian explosion, and everybody thinks that was the greatest change in biodiversity or greatest increase in biodiversity on this planet. And to be honest, that's how it's normally depicted. But it's not. There was an earlier one that actually was a bigger increase in biodiversity, but was less interesting creatures. It was basically where we started to get just multicellular things like very basic sponges, very basic plants. And they weren't all that fascinating. So as a result, even though biologically it was more important, it isn't to us.
We think less than 2% of those species at that time were even preserved. So
which is where I was going to go to, because they think at the end of the Cambrian, when we have this explosion, there was a big extinction event before the next period, because a whole bunch of these animals, particularly like the anomalocarids, which are the giant shrimp-like predators, they're like basically meter-long prawns. Some of them were filter feeders, which is interesting too. They all disappeared from the fossil record until decades after they all thought there was a big extinction. It turns out, no, they didn't go extinct, but they found them, or at least, I guess, more ones that had evolved further. So they weren't identical animals, but pretty much the same lineage of animals, or at least belonging to the same family tree, in other rocks. So it turns out that it was exactly that. It looked like an extinction to us. It looked like they'd gone missing just because they weren't fossilized. And these gaps are exactly what we expect if all the layers are laid down like this. So to bring this back to, say, young Earth creationists and Matt Powell, if it was a sample of everything at the time being covered in Noah's flood, we would not see these gaps like we do.
No. We also would have seen everything layered in exactly the same layer by a flood event, whereas what we see is the deeper we go, the further back in time we go.
Yeah. Now, everybody knows I'm not a scientist. I don't really cover these kind of topics, but I know enough about science that basically it's a proven fact that Matt Powell is definitely wrong when he says this stuff.
Yeah. Sorry, Ed, if you got an itch there, you all right?
Yeah. You need your other mug, Ed.
I tried to replace the word, the frequent word on that mug with a different one and still sing the tune, and I got into trouble from Ed earlier. At least this channel isn't monetized.
No.
Between Ed and Jen, I don't think we would have got very far.
Probably.
Maybe slightly more sensible for a science stream.
But yeah, I'm getting back to where we're at with this. As you were saying earlier, Matt, the actual study was not even at the time period of when the dinosaurs became extinct. They were actually looking earlier, almost 200 million years before the extinction event of the dinosaurs.
135
million years before the extinction event that killed the dinosaurs. Yeah, if dinosaurs...
I'm with our Matt here, almost the Dr. Matt. He did that response video the other day to me and talked about this book. I found a free audio version. And I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and look at this real quick. So I listened to it for about 10 minutes and I'm like, you don't even know what this book is saying. Like, seriously, I don't do science and I understand that you got this wrong.
So wrong.
So wrong.
But that's the thing. It's like, as I said, it took me 30 seconds. I read the first 2 lines of the study and I could tell that this is wrong.
But he didn't read the study. He read the Fox News article.
Without claiming that it's a problem with deliberate dishonesty, it could actually be just the indoctrination and just the habits that have been enforced upon people like this. I'm trying to be charitable. Please forgive me if I'm being too charitable. Hopefully that's not a huge problem here. But it's a very common thing to see with any like anti-science people, that they will only go with what they've heard someone else talk about the article. And that is very apparent with our other Mr. Cupcake here. Or Mr. Peel.
Yeah, Mr. Peel.
No, that's the banana. I'm not sure if that's making bananas look bad.
No, he's Cupcake.
Anyway. And it's quite clear him, some of the others we've talked about on this show. Atangelo was a good example when we did our stream, the last stream we did a couple of weeks ago. Because I know we didn't get one last week. They tend to take snippets out. But if you try quizzing them on, well, what does this mean? You can tell they don't have the understanding you would need to be able to consider yourself a scientist. So if I go to other scientists, I would not go to a biologist and try and tell them about biology. I would ask them, because I'm not a biologist. As would a biologist if they wanted to know about how, let's say they needed to do a very specific spectroscopic technique and it involved a laser that I'm familiar with, they would come to me and ask me about the laser. But there's certain language and certain levels that you talk at, depending on who you're talking to, that shows a minimum requirement of understanding that if you want to give yourself a headache or remind yourself just how much we don't know, go listen to the scientists talk to other experts. I was listening in on a talk earlier this week that was on fiber Bragg gratings. I won't even go into what those are. They're just a special thing with optical fibers. And this is meant to be an area that I'm working on for my PhD. And I still sat there for a lot of the time just looking at going, I'd like to ask a question, but I don't want... I've got to sound like an idiot. And that was with that was in an area I am meant to know stuff on, and I have spent time looking at it, but it's just that next level. So when these people try and come along and say the scientists mean this, it's a fairly general problem I found in journalism as well, where unfortunately not everybody has that background to understand everything, and I don't expect everyone to. Like Ed was saying, he's not an expert in science. I don't expect him to be. No. But even he can figure out that when something's wrong.
Generally speaking, most science correspondents for news places aren't scientists. They did a little bit of science in high school and maybe at university when they were doing their journalism degree, and that's it. They actually aren't most of them aren't scientists. I mean, unless of course they work for some prestigious thing like Nature or something like that, in which case they might actually have a bit better qualifications. But most of them, if you're talking about Fox News or ABC or anything like that, they're not. They're just a regular journalist
based on
who maybe got slightly better grades in science than the other journalists.
Based on all of the feeds I've been getting on YouTube, because they have the news bar now. For some reason, it likes showing me Sky and Fox, not Fox anymore, but Sky for some reason, a lot of. And I'm just looking at going, you guys, does nobody there have a science degree? Or is somehow a science degree make you less qualified?
It's quite dreadful, and I can understand that Matt Powell could read something like this, go, oh, look at that, and the fact that this weird textbook given to high school kids mentioned fighting dinosaurs. made him think, oh yeah, the news was right about it. Problem with that, Matt, is that not Matt here, that Matt. The problem with that, Matt, is that's A, not what the textbook would have said, and B, it's definitely not what the original paper was about. The original paper was just about the potential for raising the temperature of the planet at the time due to basically belching of dinosaurs, because it would have been more belching than farting, as we said
Dinosaurs
earlier.
warmed the planet slightly. That's it.
Not as much as we have, because they only made the comparison between the amount of methane we put out through agriculture and industry. Didn't count the CO2 we put out. A very large amount of our global warming comes from the fossil fuels we burn, which is CO2, not methane.
That's just a volume thing, but methane is 21 times worse as a greenhouse gas.
It is,
what
but we put out
I'm trying to build detectors for that. That's my
we also put out a lot more CO2 than we do methane.
Yeah. Although, we're not good on either front.
Oh, no, we're not. But my point was that the amount that they would have actually raised would be...
Oh, yeah.
Would be more closer to... if this was true, and we don't know that it was because we don't know exactly how the dinosaurs digested their food. If it was true, it was probably more equivalent to the rays we got probably at the early turn of the century rather than what it's like now.
Yeah.
So you're maybe half a degree tops.
Yeah. I guess all this is why I would actually really like to sit down with someone like Matt. I know I tried with a Tangelo, and well, Numpty doesn't really count, because for anyone who's seen that debate, that was an intellectual train wreck.
It was. To be fair, I think
but I would be very curious to sit down as a scientist with one of these people and not necessarily talk on these, but just general science, what they think happens in science. What do they think of me as a scientist? Just go through, try and keep it civil, just like I tried with the Tangelo. I think hopefully I was fairly okay with that. Although in Claire's words, I know I had quite the eye roll going on, but I still would. And if any of those young Earth creationists are listening or ever somehow come across this clip, I will happily sit down with you not on my channel or theirs. I'd prefer to do it on a third-party channel, some moderation, but I'll sit down and I'll have a chat and talk any topic. So
Jenny Morgan came in late and she's asking what the point was that Fartboy wanted to make. Fartboy, that's a brilliant name for him. Fartboy wanted to make about the dinosaur farts.
Well, maybe we should move to the video for that.
Yeah, well, the bit... Ed's back.
Perfect timing.
Ed.
All right, Amber says hello. She's doing very well. She spoke to the doctor this morning, and they're changing her meds, and she got her clothes back, so she feels more like a normal person. So everything's going good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. That's good
awesome
news. Although now we got to make Ed even more grumpy now, because we're about to go through the video. We need to hype him up.
Don't make me slap you, young man.
There we go. We're back. Now that's good news.
Do I really have to watch this douche nugget again?
We'll skip through bits of it. How's that sound?
All right, I guess. God, he's an idiot, though. Like
he really is.
I'm not very intelligent. I'm really not that smart, and this guy's a freaking moron.
Oh, I don't claim myself to be all that intelligent. I'm just educated beyond my intelligence.
Yeah, but I'm not even that educated. I'm an ex-convict freaking fighter. I punch people in the face. Like, this guy's an idiot.
Good timing, and that's Brainbug in the picture at the moment.
Not Brainbug. Brainbug's not an idiot. Brian's awesome.
All right, let's play this. Hopefully everyone in the chat can hear it, but we'll start off with Brainbug, who was actually making an original response to Matt's sermon.
No, they don't.
Let's just say no one teaches that dinosaurs farted themselves
No.
to death. No one.
No.
I want to. I need a quote. I need a direct quote.
They're not
We've already
getting
discussed
sound.
the article.
Okay. Why aren't they getting sound? They should be getting sound.
We got sound.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they don't.
Oh.
It is not a stream without technical issues. Don't worry, it hasn't said anything very much.
Matt Brainbug hasn't said much, and neither is.
Actually, yeah, because it's just the beginning. It was only a few seconds, but it's basically Matt Powell just saying dinosaurs farted themselves to death. Or, no, evolution teaches dinosaurs farted themselves to death.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that was never anything I've seen. Also, I am very interested in paleontology. I love my dinosaurs and other kind of ancient creatures. You know, you name it if it existed.
That's why we get along.
Yeah. See, Ed was around the same time that I like looking at all of these ancient creatures, so it works well. And I've never heard that argument. Like, I'll watch some of these videos. I don't watch them directly. I normally watch them through someone else because I can't stand that much concentrated silly in one go. Yeah. But it's...
So
yeah, I keep looking at pick up the audio. Science teaches this, science teaches that, or scientists are just out to do that. I'm like, I'm a scientist. I'm not trying to do that.
Yeah, I'm so old I once beat a T-Rex into submission and rode him.
I wonder if they can't hear it because I've got it a little low for them.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe they got the Flintstones idea from just listening to Ed's life stories.
Oh, they really can't hear it. It's not actually not picking it up. I wonder why. Okay.
Can they hear it now?
No, they probably can't. I don't know why the audio is not working. I really like technical difficulties. Well, you and Ed keep talking. I'll figure this out. Whoops. All right.
My guess is what was about to be shown is just some clip from a news article talking about the dinosaurs farting themselves to death. And it's a great example of how the media sometimes misrepresents science. So what Matt and a lot of other young Earth creationists do is they'll look at what is presented to the general public and say that's what the scientists are teaching, when all of the scientists are sitting at home going, no, that's not what we meant.
Yeah.
I saw a cartoon the other day. It was amazing. It was like this scientist saying, was it like, he was like, it was like presenting an article saying, it can be dangerous when scientists are taken out of context by the media. And then it zooms to like a news article where they've clipped the first part and it just says scientists are taken out of context by the media.
Oh, always.
I just like that. A good example of it.
Hopefully Jen will get the sound figured out here for you.
Meantime, you guys
basically, you're not missing anything. Matt Powell pretty much just said evolution teaches that dinosaurs farted themselves into existence. Nobody teaches that. Nobody's ever taught that. He's an idiot. I mean, you're not missing much. You know.
Yes, it's a low bar.
And good morning, Claire. Hope you're doing well. And everybody else, Junk Shop Grain, Brain Bug, Native Atheist, Harmonica Man. Who did I miss?
Got a few people in there. We got 18 watching, but we only got 13 likes. Just while Jen's trying to fix up the audio, why don't we give it a thumbs up to encourage the...
And Sandy...
Oh, 16. Sorry, hadn't updated. My bad. But apparently 18 watching, 16 likes. So there's two of you, and if you're not careful, I'll send Ed, or I think Jade is around, or at least Jade was around earlier. I'll send one of them off to you to throw punch.
I think the Scummer was in there. Hi, Sandy. Hope you're well. I think that's everybody. I don't know if I missed you. I'll get you next time. I don't
know. The chat will continue, although there's about a 10-second delay. So if there's anyone you've missed and they're still typing, we may not see it for a bit because they probably don't realize. That's why it's sometimes weird because I have both screens up. I have ours and I have the chat. There is a good 10 seconds or so. So it's just like, wait, when are they going to hear it? Oh, that's why they're being slow. I haven't said it yet. Yep. See, there we go.
Yeah, there's Jade.
Hi, Jade.
Intellectual iconoclasm.
Yep, that's some kind of comment there. I'd love to be able to disagree with you, but I'm struggling to.
Same caption.
Are you trying to say they share bananas?
What?
We're responding to a comment in the chat, Jen.
Fair enough.
I mean, they're both sharing the same compound, and who knows? Maybe they'll end up sharing the same cell one day. I mean, Hoven's already got a bit of experience, and if Matt takes after him,
I'm pretty sure they share the same brain cell. The one that they have between them.
Oh, I thought it died the other week.
They're lucky.
I thought they left it outside or put it in a box without enough holes. I can't remember which, but they didn't look after it properly and it died. So I'm thinking the Sir Sick quote. It's like, if you're going to keep a pet stupid, you have to make sure it doesn't get out. Jen, do you want me to really quickly download them? Would that help if instead of playing them through YouTube, played them? I can send them to you.
Okay. Do you want to know how we can get this work quickly, Matt? Is if you share them back through to us with audio, I will grab out when I'm picking up the shares. So.
Okay. Just give me a second to bring this one up.
So I'll let you bring it up and we'll do it the other way.
Yeah. Well, it was good because I sent them all to you.
I hadn't tested it, so that's fine.
So let me just find, because Twitter wants to jump around.
Yeah.
Here is now. Oh no, wrong one. I clicked on the wrong one. Getting there. Come on, everybody, be patient. Sorry.
There. My grumpy.
You'll need to share with audio so that we can all hear. Sorry.
All right.
Unfortunately, they'll lose a little bit of video quality doing it this way, but at least I'll be able to hear it, and I'm prepared to deal with that, so I don't have to mess around figuring out.
I mean, the audio is more important in this example.
I can solve the problem later and download them and play them next time, but
there we go.
So,
see.
Okay, I just gotta pull that up.
Hopefully, this works with the sound. Oh, actually,
did you share with audio?
Nope.
Okay, you got to share with audio.
Done.
Okay.
There we go. Now it should have audio.
There it is. Awesome.
But I can't see the chat, so... Oh, actually...
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I can't see the chat.
I can't do both at the same time. So.
I see you've been busy misrepresenting science. What do you got for us today?
Oh, dinosaurs gassed themselves into extinction. Again, sauropod dinosaurs, they think they actually passed a little too much there.
Well, that's an interesting claim you're making there.
They literally teach that dinosaurs farted themselves.
They don't teach that?
And then one guy says, well, Matt, you have misrepresented us. We believe that they tooted and it warmed the environment.
They tooted and it warmed the environment. Nope.
That's why they died. They died from the global warming.
It really is the most embarrassing video about creationism that I've ever seen.
I'd agree with him at Meta on that.
And since no one in my house cares to hear me talk about it, you have to listen to me. It's Matt Powell, a creationist who pretty much exists in order to make atheists look good. He's one of those guys who a little bit of knowledge can be a very dangerous thing.
I can't believe we thought it was a good idea to play this clip.
Want to hear about dinosaurs?
Do I ever want to hear about dinosaurs?
Turns out that, so this is a new report from British scientists, and they said that basically the dinosaurs, they also warmed the planet. Thanks to all the.
Okay, I just want to pause this here.
Yeah. Well, we should pause anyway because if we run it too long, we'll have Matt put a claim against us. And
yeah, so I don't know if this is the news or Matt who thought this was a good idea to explain global warming, but that picture says very, very well. It depicts very, very well this whole problem that Jen and I and Ed were talking about earlier with how often the science is not always easily communicated and often misunderstood by the general public. Yes. So even media outlets like this, they're not going for accuracy. They're going for clicks. They're going for views. They're going for ratings. And it gets annoying to me because I'll watch this. I don't. No scientist would ever say that. Now, yes, I am not a paleontologist, but detecting methane and actually monitoring greenhouse gases is my area of expertise, and nobody would say that. But also from what Matt was saying earlier about how, it just warmed the planet a bit, it sounds like someone's explained it to him and he just hasn't got it.
Yeah, he's got these things. They put out methane. Methane's a greenhouse gas. The planet warmed up. Also, they must have died because they farted themselves to death.
Yeah. Show me the paper. That's one thing I have never seen a creationist do, is actually quote the original peer-reviewed paper. Not some article, not some news source, but a peer-reviewed paper.
And not
with
a children's book.
Children's book. Because if someone was to come to me and say the scientists are teaching this, and they actually wanted to prove to me that, yeah, this is what science says, that's what I'm going to require. I'm going to sit there as a scientist, say, all right, show me the paper, show me which journal it was published in, and then I will go and read it.
Yes.
If the abstract, well, I'll start with the abstract and the conclusion to see if the general idea of the paper matches with what the person's saying, or even if I'm reading them from my own use, this is how I normally do it. Abstract, which is the summary, I read the conclusion to see the ending, so what did they draw from it, and then from there, if it's useful, if I think there's more into it, I'll start reading then through. So I'll read the intro if I need a bit more background, depending on what area I'm reading into. And if it was something where I'm trying to repeat any of the experiments, I'll then go quite into detail into the methods. I'll look at the exact numbers. I'll look at the figures. Most scientists, I think this is something that isn't normally said, but we rely very heavily on figures. Not pictures, but on graphs, on charts, on all of the tiny representations of the data that you'll see in these articles. And it's not something you'll normally see in the media because they're not the most exciting if it's not your area. But that's something I also don't see presented almost at all. I've done it in some of the good channels on YouTube for paleontology, for science in general, do a good job of it. I've done it myself. I've seen a few others. I think Jen has done it too. We'll show some of those figures and they can get a bit complicated. I mean, my favorite one I've ever presented was the rats. So if anyone's seen my rat video, you'll know what I'm talking about there. Yeah, I love that. They had a figure that talked about rats.
I mean, I will show figures if I'm doing, depending on what I'm doing. I'll put references in when I'm doing a discussion on things. But I will show the figures if where they're applicable. Because generally you can talk around the figures without needing them. If you need them, you have to show what's in the original document, and you have to give references. Because me saying that that a figure is such and such means nothing if I don't back it up.
Yeah, and I've done it in a few of my videos. I did it for some of the Chernobyl one as well, and a couple of others. I don't do it very often because I said they're designed for an expert audience, so you don't expect to see them, but as a scientist, or at least as someone who's trying to be a scientist, who wants to get there one day,
trying to be scientists.
It is something I see a lot, because I will see the professors, I'll see all of the people who are career scientists, and that is the first thing they do. They can read a paper just by looking at the figures, because it's a representation of the data. They can have a look at the figures and go, oh, that's interesting. They managed to do all this. Then if it's like, okay, well, how did they do that? They'll start reading in more detail. And in some areas, I'm starting to be able to do that. I can, in very narrow niches, I can kind of do that. But that's the sort of level. It's not like this top, like, oh, look, here's a picture of, like, is that a giant nuclear bomb or a meteorite impact? Because that's not how either of them would look either.
Yeah.
Well, no, that was dinosaurs farting next to a fire.
Also, methane fires don't. My brain hurts.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, Matt, and it's. I mean, we struggle too. Well, I mean, even with the background in science and STEM, if you are reading a paper that's outside of your fields, you are going to struggle to read that paper. I've done it so many times because my major is math. So when I'm reading science papers, sometimes I struggle with them. Not always. It depends on the paper itself, but I can struggle with physics and. Well, no, I don't usually struggle with physics papers, but I often will struggle if I'm reading a biology paper or, some other... I mean, if it's quantum mechanics, it's just like, oh my God, why did I start reading this?
I get maybe 2 lines into a quantum mechanics paper.
I'll read the summary. Then the first part of it, and I'll go... Okay, that's me. Because there's no way I'm going to understand the core of this.
I would just like to point out, Nerdy Rodent says the early dinosaurs used to set fire to their farts as a primitive sort of rear laser.
Just for that, Nerdy, we're going to have to do your one next.
Yeah, we're doing Nerdy's one next. Oh, come on, where's the batteries? There we go. Although that's probably not going to show up because the green screen. I can't see what it... There we go, that's for Nerdy. Stop waving your laser around like that. Sorry, shall we continue?
Are we having a lightsaber fight?
I better be careful. I might start forest fire, according to...
my favorite laser gag was the one from Big Bang Theory, where we're going to measure the distance to the moon with the laser. What if you hurt the moon? It's all right. We set our laser to stop. I just love that.
Jesus.
On that note,
now I got the dog and the cats in here. Like, where'd it go? Where's the dot?
But yeah, it's just so crazy that Matt thinks this, and I mean the thing is, we know there was lots of selective pressures on the dinosaurs towards the end, as we've already said, and they were. It appears from the fossil record they were in decline, but we know what finished them. A great big 6-kilometer wide freaking asteroid crashing into the Yucatan Peninsula is what finished off the dinosaurs.
You all right there, Ed?
I'm looking at Junk Shop's comment.
I can't see the comments.
They share bananas. We share lasers. We are not the same.
Love you, Junk Shop.
We should continue, but if you want me to skip,
we should. But I mean, our point is there's all the we found the crater, and it dates to the right era.
Oh, yeah.
Plus, and the iridium layer around the planet, plus the fact that below that layer, below the KT boundary, dinosaurs. Above it, no non-avian. So no,
and also the
birds,
avian dinosaurs and the avian dinosaurs we find are more limited. Exactly as we expect. You don't find anything larger than 20 kilos surviving that impact. And just to elaborate on the iridium is fairly rare on Earth, but it's very common in meteorites. So when it hit the Earth and broke apart and a lot of it got sprayed in the atmosphere, it just coated the Earth in a light layer of iridium dust. And so as all the geological layers formed after that, doesn't matter where you are in the Earth, if that layer has survived, you will find this nice band of iridium to show exactly when the last of our non-avian dinosaurs went extinct.
Iridium is not the only layer of iridium that we have. No. It's one of the thickest, but there's been several others within the geological record. So we know there's been other large asteroid hits in the past. We've never found their craters.
Yeah, I think the largest, one of the largest hit Australia, I believe.
There's been quite a few.
There's been quite a few. There was one.
about...
There was one that bounced. It like smacked into... was it Australia or was it Siberia? I know they're opposite ends. I can't remember. I should...
No,
and it bounced across the Earth because it didn't hit us directly.
The most recent find is the one in Iceland, which only hit about 30,000 years ago. It was not as big as Yucatan. It was about a kilometer across. This one was about a kilometer across. So
30,000 years ago. That is recent.
Years ago. That is really recent. We are quite lucky that there wasn't a major extinction event even from that, because at a kilometer wide, you could have had a major extinction event.
Like,
not exactly.
There are small volcanoes that have done a lot of damage in human history. That a kilometer-wide meteorite impact can do a fair bit of damage, but that is not long after most of the large herbivores disappeared from the fossil record. If you want to talk about the giant, like 80-meter-long cave-digging sloths, you want to talk about most of the mammoth. Well, the last of the mammoths didn't go extinct until about 4,000 years ago.
Yes.
But the major diversity of them, most of Australia's megafauna too was about 50-odd thousand years ago. It pretty much disappears. It could have lasted a bit later.
Most of the sabres and saber-tooths and things like that was about between 15 and 30,000 years ago. So selective pressure on them may have come from that impact.
That's quite possible.
It's quite conceivable, because we're not sure with the exact time frame that there was a minor extinction event, because it was very likely that happened, that occurred with that impact, because it was quite recent. It was quite a discovery to discover there's this great big there's this great big crater under the ice in Iceland. And it was in human history.
Yeah, we were lucky from that one.
Not written history, but within time frame of actual.
Yeah, we've still got another 20-odd thousand years before we get anything written. History,
but yeah, like our ancestors. Well, there might not have been any left alive who actually saw the impact, but saw the after effects of it. There would have been a year long or more nuclear winter after that, and lots of forest fires in areas close to Greenland, and most of the Greenland cap would have melted.
Huh.
So,
well,
not Iceland, Greenland. Yeah. I meant Greenland. It was in Greenland. Why did I say Iceland?
Greenland is full of ice.
Yeah.
Anyway, if we want to get through this one, a nerdy's one at least.
Yeah, we should keep going.
Gas that they emitted from eating all the leafy plants. And in all, they emitted a total of 520 million tons per year of global methane, which is, they say, the level comparable to the total given off today by animals and industrial activity. So they farted their way to extinction.
I think what's important here is actually that this once and for all proves that the Creation Museum in Kentucky is wrong. Because if dinosaurs were actually farting that much, Adam and Eve would not have been that close to them hanging out. So I just want to point that out.
He also said that dinosaurs farted themselves into extinction.
Evolution actually teaches that certain of the dinosaurs went extinct because they farted themselves into extinction.
He made that up.
I like the fact that he says evolution teaches, because evolution teaches nothing about the extinction events. That's paleontology.
Yeah, and also the paper this is all based on does not say that they farted themselves to death.
No, it never does.
It doesn't actually say it. It doesn't even conclude that it even sped up their demise. All it's saying is it helped warm the world a little bit when the world was already quite warm.
Yes. Which may have had a long-term impact on the dinosaurs themselves. But to be absolutely honest, the excessive volcanic activity that was close towards the end of the dinosaurs would have had every bit as much impact.
Yes. It was enough to make a detectable impact, but not a significant one. It was minor, and given what actually happened in the end, probably doesn't really mean much. It's just an interesting side note. But again, once more, it has been taken out of context.
All their greenhouse gases caused climate change, which caused
who this meant to be
an ice age, and they all froze to death.
Meanwhile, he's a conservative Christian who presumably votes for politicians who actively
Who was that? And can we
I don't
hear that
know
again?
who that was, but
Yeah, I don't know if it's...
can I just say, I'm not going to listen to anybody who's sitting there in a bathrobe on some pink leopard print, whatever you're laying on. Like,
yeah, if you're going to make a video on a topic, put some effort in.
Yeah.
I don't know who it's meant to be. And like, I've never, like, all the science communicators that I will follow, or the science channels that I follow for information, some of, I know one or two of them I've come across have, presented things in, say, bedrooms, things like that, just, particularly during lockdown. But for the most part, they're a lot more professional than that, and they will always cite the papers. But they don't ever look like that. I try not to make my videos look like that. Hopefully I don't come across like that. But
as Brainbug just said, it shows that methane contributed to global climate, resulting in ecological shifts, extinctions, faunal exchange, and diversification. Not wiping them out. Some extinctions, but not wiping them out. The fact that they continue to exist long after this shows that it didn't wipe them out.
Also, I'm skipping through just the time bar here. It doesn't look like he says much other than trying to show the clips of these people and then show someone else who said the dinosaurs farted themselves to existence.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
I'm noticing a pattern that these people are saying the scientists don't say this, and then he's showing someone who isn't a scientist thinking that defeats the argument. Why don't you?
Like, I'm not sure Matt Powell knows what a scientist is.
It's Mutt, the sentient Mr. Peel cupcake, I think, at this point. But as I said, I will sit down and I'll have a nice conversation with any of them. But that's the thing. Don't show me someone talking who isn't referenced. I don't know who they are. Maybe they're a scientist, maybe they're not. As Ed pointed out, why would I listen to them dressed like that? The previous example, anyway.
Yeah.
If you're going to show me the science, if you're going to tell me that I'm wrong about the science, show me the science. Show me the data, or show me the paper it got published in.
See, here's part of the problem with a lot of these people. And I get it. I understand our earlier scientists did not go to universities and things like that because, well, they didn't exist. But for you to claim, well, I'm a doctor because I say I'm a doctor, they did it, 2,000 years ago. Yeah, they did it 2,000 years ago. They claimed to be scientists back then, so I'm claiming to be a scientist. Listen, that's not how things work.
Not at all.
A few hundred years ago, they were scientists, but they were looked at. A lot of those people were looked at as, committing
most people
black
a few hundred
magic.
years ago weren't even referred to as scientists. They were usually naturalists or
theologians,
exactly.
or just theologians, because
that was the only way you got an education.
Yeah,
right. And we look at them now as the creators of science.
Oh, actually, I do want to add something on that, because I've heard this as a very frequent argument, not necessarily just from young Earth creationists, though they've definitely used it, but I do hear this more from the old Earth creationists, or just the Christians in general, or religious people, or particularly Christians. They will say, oh, but Christianity is where modern science comes from, referring to those early universities.
No.
Yeah.
That is to forget the centuries and millennia of history that occurred before that. That's to ignore all of the Muslims, all of the Romans, all of the Greeks, and all of the Persians, plus all the other, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, and all of those other civilizations, plus the Chinese, who did a fairly good job of it on occasion, on the opposite side of the world, almost
talking
independently.
About the history of stuff. There was a recent discovery near ancient Babylonia, where they found a
the maths.
The maths, yes, the little clay tablet, and it's got Pythagoras' theorem on it. Like,
but
a 1,000 years before Pythagoras came up with it. That might mean we'll change the name of it, but it means that the Babylonians actually were using a squared plus b squared equals c squared long before the Greeks ever did. So the Greeks, I mean, we already knew the Greeks borrowed a lot of what they used in maths from the Babylonians and other people of the area, because the Persians.
Yeah, Persians.
And it's just great to see, hey, our knowledge of that goes back even further.
Yeah.
I mean, Babylonian maths is absolutely fascinating, because we work in base 10, but the Babylonians worked in base 64. Can you imagine that? That is also absolutely crazy. I don't have problems using base 16 in my head, let alone base 64.
This is actually why Rome's math system was pretty bad. They were good engineers, but their math system is why we don't use Roman numerals anymore, because they did addition in base 12 and like multiplication and division in base 6. They use different bases for different mathematical operations, which is weird. Although one thing I like is at the same time, the ancient Mayans, and I mean ancient Mayans, although they obviously lasted a lot longer into what would be considered medieval periods, right up until just before the Spanish reached Central America, they came up with a math system that used base 5.
Yeah.
Which is shorter than our own, but they could do a lot of the complex maths we could, and you can actually see in their architecture when they figured it out.
Yeah,
you can
there was
tell
an interesting thing
because,
with one of the interesting things that attaches to that is, well, there's always been this argument of how far back people started to use 0. Because from a point of view of counting, 0 doesn't appear to be a number. But for the use of timelines and to do measurements, you have to have a 0, especially if you get into a decimal-based system. But it appears, looking back through the Babylonian things and through Mayan stuff and everything, most of those civilizations who developed any form of more complex geometry or maths of that sort did use a 0, even if we didn't recognize it originally.
So one of the posts I've got, actually, let me see. This has been sitting on my room, on my wall. Let me see if I can get it off. I'm probably going to rip it, so I might not. Come on, you going to come with me?
Maybe I'll give Jenny Morgan this. They worked in base 64 because their CPUs were 128-bit. I like that. Well done, Jen.
Yeah, this has been sitting on my room for ages.
Wow.
On my wall. This is just, it's like a chart with all the different ones. It's hard to read because it's presented in base 10, and a lot of these number systems aren't base 10. But there's the Mayan one I was talking about in base 5. So that's their equivalent of 10, but for 5. And then you'll get 2 of the bars when we get to it as our 10. But yeah, they could do a lot of that maths, and you had all the different ones. And I know this is very off topic, but the reason why we write numbers the way we do, the reason why a 1 looks like a 1, a 2 looks like a 2, and so on, was the original version of them. The number of acute angles equaled the number that you were representing. So you didn't quite write them like we do, but when you think about why some people put the bar through a 7, it was to give you those 4. It was actually it wasn't acute. It was acute angles.
I can't remember. No.
Yeah, I think it was acute angles. And so it would give you 4, and then you have another bar at the 2, which would be 2 more, so it'd give you 6, and then the little bend at the top of the 7 gave you the 7th one. So if anyone's wondering the bar from the 7th.
Sorry, yes, you're right. Intellectual iconoclasm, not base 64, base 60. You're quite right. Base 60, but it's still a complex mass. Yeah, I don't know why I said base 64. Not base 16 though. They
counted by 60s.
By 60s, that's a crazy way. But it worked for them.
Would you say we've dealt with dinosaur farts?
Yeah, I pretty much think we have. Well, one other thing when we're talking about bases, base 12 is
let me stop sharing.
Is actually a very common system that we use and still use, especially for like Ed, who uses base 12 all the time, because any imperial system is a base 12 system, and the reason why imperial systems use a base 12 and a base 12 is because you get more factors of 12 than you do of 10. And that makes it easier to express things in fractions. So the mass is actually easier to do if you're having to do it by hand. If you're using base 12 for measuring and things like that, than it is if you're doing it in decimal.
Yeah,
I hate having to admit that, but it is actually true. Where it's more complicated is if you have to get out into really big numbers and complex stuff in science. It is really, really hard to use a counting system based in 12. Imperial.
Being a machinist though, base 12
is easier because you can very quickly write down a couple of notes. Oh yeah, I know exactly how I've got to set things. If you're doing it in base 10, I'm going to get my calculator. Most people would, because it is a lot harder because the factors are a lot more complicated.
Yeah, and there are times, see, this is something I understand because I am a machinist, and there are times where we have to do things in base 12, and I have the calculator out, and I'm still going, I fucking hate this part. You know?
Although, if I may be permitted, if America did change to SI units, there'd be mass confusion.
To be fair, all the SI units used in America are actually directly based off the metric system. So underneath it all, America is still metric, but for the use of people, it's imperial. Which I think is hilarious because you got so far away from England, but you kept the bloody counting system and measuring system because why not?
Yeah, and we actually use a lot of that for CNC machinery.
And what I really love is the Poms who hate the French crawled up the French's ass to take on the metric system. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah, I can do some conversions in my head, but I still cannot get past temperature. I can't do degrees Celsius into Fahrenheit.
Oh, I can't either.
Very easily. I just have to remember a few points.
It's not too bad doing distance changes or like kilometers per hour to miles per hour. They're fairly easy conversions to do. Even weight's not too bad, but yeah, when you're coming to do that. But I mean, we still have our time is still base 12. You could have metric time, but our time is still base 12 for everywhere on the planet. So.
Oh well.
I only sidetracked because that was way more interesting than Matt Powell.
Yes. I think we conclusively there dealt with young Earth creation.
We've gone over and over it again, and Matt's just trying to take the piss out of people who know better than he does. And he's doing a very, very, very bad job of it because he doesn't understand the science.
I do want to see the next video. I really want to see this because I'm hoping it's a good laugh, if anything. I just don't see how he knows this. And I can't actually see in my head where this is going to go.
Well,
I don't know if you mentioned it earlier or not. Nerdy hopefully will get... I don't know if Nerdy's going to be disappointed or excited when he sees this video title. Could go either way. I'm some mix of both.
And I haven't watched it yet, so I'm doing this cold.
Yeah, neither have I.
So we're doing this cold, and we don't know how bad this is. Or good this is.
The title. Let me just bring this up.
It'll be bad. It's Matt Powell.
So here we go. Share screen. Make sure I share audio this time.
Yes.
There we go. Hopefully this will bring up. Just let me know when you want me to start.
Give me a sec.
All right. Here we go. How rodents prove Noah's flood.
What?
Yeah.
Evidence everywhere of the global flood. In fact, I have proven on multiple occasions that the flood of Noah, that the global flood that covered the entire Earth.
It's weird having him full screen on my computer.
And in my last video, I also covered that there are duck-billed dinosaurs that are found.
I'd really like to know how he thinks he proved Noah's flood.
In South America. Now,
wait, what?
He said, I have proved countless times that Noah's flood was real.
No. After that. This last bit, sorry, I just want to hear this again.
That are found in Africa and that cover the entire Earth is a scientific fact. And in my last video, I also covered that there are duck-billed dinosaurs that are found in Africa, and that there are monkeys that are found in South America. Now, keep in mind...
What?
Okay.
The only thing I can think of is he's talking about the fact that they're on different continents, but you find them on... Like, you find monkeys in both Africa and America, and you find duck-billed dinosaurs, of the hadrosaurs, in Africa and in... Oh, I'm trying to remember
I'd like to
where
point out
else.
they're not the one where we found in South America and Africa. But
they're not the same species
they're
now.
not the same species. And neither are the monkeys.
Yes.
They're not the same species.
You've got the old world and the new world.
And the reason why you had that is we used to have land bridges at certain points in the past for the dinosaurs. South America and Africa were joined together.
Yes, and North America was further north. Alaska was further north, but the world was slightly warmer, so you had some really interesting winter conditions. You can go look up, like, there was like Arctic hunters that were like, they were Allosaurus or T-Rex type, if you're not too familiar with your dinosaurs, that hunted in the dead of winter in the Arctic.
Yeah,
like
and as
4
Brainbug
months of
points
darkness,
out,
and you had
stop talking about rafting if you won't talk about rafting, you coward. Because yes, there's also rafting. We know
I
that
think this is going.
We do know that some animals did raft, but probably not.
We've
monkeys.
seen it happen.
Yeah, probably not. Monkeys.
We've seen rafting happen. Yeah. Plus, also, South America and Africa were once, as Jen was saying, much closer to each other.
Yeah,
meaning that rafting was much more possible. It did happen with rodents as well. So I think that's where this might be going. If he's bringing this up. That's my guess. He's going to talk about how they're on how.
Nerdy goes rodents fart too. Just saying. Does that mean we can blame you for global warming, Nerdy?
I used to have pet mice when I was little. And by little, I mean even littler.
No, Brainbag. We know you weren't calling us the coward. Yes. You tried to have Matt discuss this topic with you. Yeah, he's a coward. He's not going to do that.
Yeah. But I still challenge him to present the real, like the paper, the quotes in the original paper.
I wonder if I've got enough room to add Brainbug in with us. If he wants
to. Go for it.
I think I can do it.
Let's see if we can continue this, or my brain is going to explode. I don't know. We'll see how far we get through.
According to evolution, those things should not even be there.
Nope.
What?
I'm not going to say anything more. Just nope. It's exactly what we expect.
Did not live in Africa, and monkeys did not live in South America, according to evolution.
Where does he even get that from? Whoever said that?
I didn't say it. Did you, Jen?
Hang on, sorry. I'm looking for Brainbug's link.
I mean, you can't just make shit up.
Yeah, but he does all the time.
Oh no, someone else is making it up, and he's repeating it, because I've heard this argument elsewhere, but it just gets down the line. It gets more stupid because people add to it. No, in fact, then explain why we have a difference in New World and Old World monkeys. Why are the monkeys in America different if it was all from Noah's flood? Because you will not find a monkey in South America that's, native to South America, whose nostrils point down like ours. Yes, we are simiiforms, get over it. But
I should correct myself. You can make shit up and get people to believe it. Look at religion.
Also, I just want to add, in case there's a thing, we haven't got Young Earth creationists, but a lot of the people I would consider good friends I've met at uni, a lot of the scientists, some of the best scientists I've met, have been deeply religious. These guys don't have a problem with, these guys have a problem with everybody who doesn't believe exactly like them. I've never had that problem in science. I have met so many different people in science, so many different ideas, yet we can sit down and we don't ever have disagreements on stuff this basic. You can always get past that.
Nerdy.
Just felt like I needed to add that in.
Noah's Ark was powered by dinosaur farts.
Sorry?
Noah's Ark was powered by dinosaur farts.
Now I'm thinking of them trying to run some like giant turbine where the dinosaurs have like puts their butts on like a toilet seat and it's got a burner in the back that's running a turbine rather than just sticking their rear ends out the back of the boat.
As Brainbug said, the mutation rate to diverge old world and new world monkeys from each other cannot happen in the Noachian timescale.
Yeah, that's the other one because the molecular clock is not necessarily for our regular DNA. It's the mitochondrial DNA where it's more accurate because that's a more predictable mutation rate. And yeah, it actually makes perfect sense based on how far apart the continents were when these splits occurred, when these land bridges occurred, like the one over the Bering Sea. So the Bering Land Bridge, because it was basically a Russian explorer who went out there and said, this whole area I'm naming after myself.
Brainbug, do you want to drop the link to your stream that's coming up soon? How long is it till your stream, by the way? I think it's like in about 20 minutes or something. So maybe if we get through this in time, we can sort of almost finish so there's not too much crossover.
Yeah, hopefully.
Because
I don't think this is not going to take 20 minutes to debunk. It's going to take 20 minutes for our brains to recover.
Yeah.
Anyway, on that.
Yeah, well, should we play this?
According to evolution theory, the only way that they could have...
do we need to go over this? This is just a good example of clickbait title.
And we've already talked about rafting. And I know that Brainbag has covered it before, and given that he's got a stream in 20-ish minutes, he'll probably bring it up again now because we've just covered it. So, but yeah, we know animals rafted, and small monkeys could easily raft across. You know, you've got enough years for it to one of them or a small population to get across, and rafting does happen.
Also, what's the bet that he hasn't read past the title?
Oh, he thinks they were surfing. I bet he even says
he will not mention the word rafting.
And they were,
he will not mention the word rafting, despite the fact that it is in the first sentence.
The guy out there was by riding on rafts.
Oh no, he does say it
across the ocean. And as a creationist, it's easy to explain and it's easy to account for, and it's what we'd expect. Anyways, we'd expect to find all these monkey fossils in all these bizarre places that completely.
How? I don't get that. Coming out of the Middle East.
So what he expects was that there was this giant flood that covered the earth, and it was like a great big washing machine, and it mixed all the animals up so you could find fossils of any of them all over the world. Except you don't, Matt. You find fossils in specific places around the world, and some of them have moved to other areas through rafting or when the continents were joined in different ways, or when we had land bridges. We don't find every single fossil everywhere on the planet, which is what you would expect with the rapid death and burial from a gigantic flood.
Ravage the evolutionary timeline. And we know that happened from the flood, that the flood placed them there through hydrologic sorting. And that the
Nope, but we just said it.
Flood would have placed the duck-billed dinosaur fossils in Africa. And interestingly enough, Oxford University has also released a paper on this and stated that rodents crossed the ocean as well.
Yep. I will make one note on this one. There is a brilliant PBS Eons episode on this crossing. If anyone is interested, go look up PBS Eons when rodents rafted to South America. I think that'll probably bring up the one I'm talking about. They're a very, like, the Eons channels do a very good job with science.
Everywhere.
Yeah, because they're small and they can survive for surprisingly long times without food and water. So
Australia
they make
is one of
good
the few
animals
places rats didn't make it to until we started
we were
sailing
just too
ships
far away.
Because then they rafted on our ships.
That's another one. Marsupials fit our understanding of continental drift perfectly. They started in South America at a time where it was still joined to Antarctica, and Antarctica was still joined to Australia. And guess which 3 continents you can find marsupial fossils in? South America, Antarctica,
Rapid Death
Australia.
And Burial is my new band name.
So rodents are now being found in places that they shouldn't have been, according to evolution.
Nope.
And now they're saying rodents crossed hundreds of miles of open water on rafts.
I don't think it was hundreds. The gap between South America and Africa, if I recall, would not, at the time they reckon it occurred, have been hundreds of miles. If I have to double check the exact numbers, but I definitely know it was a lot shorter. They estimate it was unlikely, but over a couple of million years, with enough storms, given the currents at the time, or our understanding what the currents were like, if you model them from today's currents, it would have been possible for a raft to move in, I think it was under 2 weeks. It was something like 11 or 13 days, which rodents could survive on a raft for. They wouldn't have been very happy, but there would have been enough. And if there's a group of them or it happened more than once, that would be plenty of them to populate. And
the way rats populate? Yep. But
yes,
there's other issues with that as well. We also know that early humans actually rafted across the Atlantic as well. Built rafts and actually rafted because we've had fossil finds.
Yes.
So, and if humans went, rats probably went with them.
Yeah. That's the other one too. Rats like following us, particularly because humans like taking food, and until modern day kind of industrial refrigerators, it was very easy for rats to hide in our food. However, also on that note, which I find super, super fascinating, I was reading up on this recently, but it's still fairly early research. They found one of the oldest fossils in South America that they reckon did not reach South America by what we originally thought was the traditional route, which was across the Bering Land Bridge, which is the north through Alaska and then through North America and come down. But they sailed / rafted there from Australia. The oldest South Americans could be closest in relation to Australian Aboriginals. Now, I don't think the paper said that lineage was very strong if it lasted at all, but there is evidence to suggest that somehow those who made it to Australia island hopped far enough across the Atlantic to eventually reach South America, which also goes to show that's a bigger gap. And we made it. So, but you can check this. This is all, this is genetics. It said that study's still fairly early. I have to check it. But I was reading a bit on that the other day, and that I just found that so fascinating because it's like, that is not what we would expect.
No.
But, hey, we go by the evidence.
Shall we move? Shall we watch more?
Yeah.
Now, one can make the argument that rodents rode with humans on a boat across the ocean.
Which is what we just said.
Supposedly, rodents crossed the ocean 34 million years ago. Humans were not even on the scene at that point, according to
he just gave the answer previously. They rafted.
These rodents got there in South America as well.
Our point is rodents traveled across many times, not just
once. On currents, how magically take across the ocean. So, according
He's
to
the one who believes in the magic.
And according to Big Bang cosmology and all this stuff that's intertwined.
What's cosmology got to do with rodents traveling an ocean?
Look, I have been at uni studying physics for 8 years now. I am in an astrophotonics group. I have taken senior, I guess, for a lack of more specific word in this context, cosmology ones, or at least we deal with like what these people would call stellar evolution, and actually some scientists will refer it to as that, but it'll always be stellar evolution. They will distinguish it from regular evolution because it's not the same. I don't remember talking about rodents.
Did they raft through space to other planets? And that was so it's rat spermia. Is that what it is, nerdy? Nerdy? Rat spermia.
That sounded a lot worse than what you actually meant it to be.
It did.
I do some of those, I do bring up the panspermia hypothesis in the video I filmed today. It's only briefly mentioned, but it does come up because, of course, I can't talk about alien life without mentioning that as to why we want to go. I really want this video to go well because it spent so long on it. But anyway, that's enough about us or me.
Extremes that you have to stoop to when you enter into make-believe fantasy land and believe that the world came from nothing and that the
talking donkeys.
Yeah.
Bible's a storybook, which in turn says that there was no global flood, which we know to be inaccurate and unscientific.
No one believes the universe came from nothing. Except for you.
I don't.
Because you believe that God taught the universe into existence from nothing. He was bored one day, started talking, and the universe...
Actually, I want to skip. I'll do this last bit, because look, he's got a friend.
Oh, he's got a friend. Let's see the friend bit, and then we might wind up so people can go over and watch Brainbug.
What on earth is their book that they're looking at? Like, I'm seeing this full screen on my screen, and it's really low quality. It's like, they filmed this in 480p or something.
Something about the atheist religion.
Yeah.
Which
The Way of Truth presents the atheist religion. I can't tell who they photoshopped onto what looks like a Jedi's face. They got a TIE fighter in the background.
Yeah, I can't tell either. And
I can't read this.
On Google, surfing monkeys, or when monkeys surf to South America is what the article is even titled.
I saw it, and you accurately reported what they said, and now they're claiming you're lying.
No,
now,
they both lied.
The problem with this argument is, for one, most of us, we never heard of it before. You know, unless you're like really into evolution, unless you're really into this branch of the science here, you're probably not going to know about it.
Does anyone know who this
That's
is?
Raging Atheist.
Yeah.
That's the Rage.
I didn't recognize him.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize that. Sorry, I haven't watched too much of his stuff. It's just...
No, you should. He's awesome.
Yeah. But any of us who've done a little bit of science know about rafting. Know that it happens.
Yeah.
Knows that's how... we know it happens. We've got film footage of it happening. For goodness sake.
Now YouTube is telling me that we're currently live.
So
I hope this doesn't ruin all my suggested video. So sick video played next.
So I hope everybody's enjoyed that little laugh at Matt Powell's expense.
Oh, Junk Shop said it's Dawkins on the Jedi.
Oh, it's Dawkins on the Jedi. Oh, wow.
I couldn't.
So
most non-believers don't think much of Dawkins' opinions. Sorry, that just before.
See, this is my problem.
There are any creationists watching.
If you, I would probably listen to Dawkins about stuff to do with evolution because it's his field. But as soon as he opens his mouth about anything outside of his field, usually it's a torrent of shit that falls out of it because. The man's got opinions on things he absolutely knows nothing about. Now, to be fair, lots of people do that. But he tries to speak with authority about things he knows nothing about, and it pisses me off. So I'm not a fan of Richard Dawkins. I would love to talk to him about biology sometime, but there's no one in this world I would ever talk to him about anything else.
And that's the most common thing I'll hear if you talk to people when they say, these are the leaders of atheists. Most of the people they show up either are not very open atheists, they don't make a show of it, or they're people that have a lot of people that don't agree with everything they say.
Yeah,
as you would expect.
And lots of people in the atheist community disagree, just like lots of Christians disagree, because the only thing that keeps atheists together is we don't believe there's a God. That's it. That is absolutely it. Matt and I don't even do shows about being atheists per se. We do shows about science.
Yeah, my channel, I wouldn't even cover this sort of stuff on my channel because I just want to talk science.
I did my maths degree. When I was doing science, I was a Christian.
We have something in the chat from Jenny Morgan that says 87,000 coordinated horseflies can carry a small adult 1,500 miles. Some first peoples got here by air travel.
Oh, well done, Jenny. I missed that. Sorry. Thank you for joining us. It's been awesome as always. I'm so glad that Amber's doing better.
Yeah.
That
Thank you.
Brilliant. And Matt, you've got your video coming up. That's going to be absolutely brilliant. I'm looking forward
By
to
the
sitting
time
down with you either tomorrow or it may end up being Monday, depending on how I end up feeling after I get my.
I'm not going anywhere.
Where we can sit down together and get those animations nutted out, and it should be a lot of fun. And then we can. The other thing we want to let people know is sometime over the next week or 2 weeks, we will be launching a channel specifically for Schrodinger's Bathtub. Matt and I are moving these chats over to its own channel, so it can be its own thing. If we do a chat like this where we know we're going to get a bit rowdy, it may still be on my channel first and then edited down because we want to make it family friendly. And that's going to be hard for me. But I'm going to attempt it because it's worthwhile. There'll be after that, there'll be a few new things that will be coming on my channel. There's a couple of projects I've got in the works and some new pre-recorded stuff that I want to get out there. Unfortunately, I've been stupidly busy and unwell over the last few weeks, so I haven't actually been able to get any of that stuff done. And there's priorities. Always there's priorities. But we are looking forward to launching the new channel in the next either for next week's show or the show after. It'll probably be the show after. At this rate, because we want to get all the artwork, and we're actually going to have a new introduction to go with the launch on the new channel. The streams that we've had on here, some will need editing, but some we're just going to put straight up on the new channel as is, like the one with Tess. We might cut out some of Matt and I talking at the beginning and just start in when we Tess actually makes it.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Tess is far more interesting than I could be, so let's just start there.
Interesting. And there's a few other things that we've done
video I'm making
that we're going to be. Yeah, Tess has helped you.
I was gonna. Yeah, Tess is helping with my next video too. So
yeah,
she'll have a.
Tess is awesome.
She'll
and
appear
I'm sure
in the
we'll
credits.
have her back on sometime when we're on the new channel. And we've got a lineup of some really good people who work in science to come on once we're on the new channel, and it's going to be fascinating. So once we've got it, we'll be tweeting it out on Twitter, and please sub up, and because we want to get that back up to having a nice following, so we can actually get the science out there that we want to get on the go. So yeah, and Ed, I assume you've got some rants coming up this week.
I don't know yet. I have a lot of different stuff going on. I might be doing something this week, but I don't know yet.
We'll see.
And of course, later in the week, you can catch at least Ed and I. I'm not sure who the guest is, or Matt seems to be on every now and then, as does Claire. So one of them may even be on next week. I don't know what Chris has got planned, but you can catch us over on Six Pack or on the pre-show for Six Pack.
I am often on the pre-show.
Yep. Usually he's on the pre-show. We're also, Claire and I are hoping to start our new show this week. I can't remember what it's called now, because Chris actually came up with a really good name for it, which was better than the one we already had, so we're going with that, and I can't remember what it is. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So keep an eye out for that. Aside from that, I expect to see Matt and I here again next Saturday to talk some more science. We probably won't be tearing any stupid young earthers apart next week. Hopefully we'll have a guest. We've got a good guest on this week. What am I talking about? Hopefully we'll have a sciencey guest on next week. Sorry, Ed. As in somebody with a degree in science.
I don't take any offense to that. What the hell part of me is good? I'm grumpy for a reason.
No, you're awesome, but it's just, I mean, hopefully we'll have somebody with a science degree on next week to actually talk about their field of science. We've got a few guests up our sleeves, and look forward to some really good content over the next weeks as Matt and I get the train moving on the show. All right, thank you to everybody in the chat, and go on, Matt, you can do the out.
And until next time, peoples, be like protons, don't choke on the selfie stick, and stay positive.